What's happening, people? Welcome back to the Scarfey Spurs Talk Podcast. It's been an eventful start to the season for Tottenham because even in this dull international break, as I always call them, there is stuff to talk about because as far as Tottenham are concerned. So we'll be reviewing the season so far based on what we've seen from Thomas Frank, from the players, from the supporters, everything. We'll cover the whole basis tonight. Let's introduce my fantastic panel who join me because I'm Harry Scarfe. I'm your host as always for tonight. Firstly, I'm joined by Philip from Frankfurt. Philip, thank you very much for coming on. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm all good. Thanks, Harry, as always, for having me on. Good evening, everyone. Some good people on here tonight as well. So looking forward to some great chat. I think we've got a lot to go through as well. But yeah, I'm good. It's obviously international break as well. So I'm struggling through that day by day, hour by hour. But yeah, I guess at some point it'll be finished. And then we've got a nice game, haven't we, waiting for us as well, as our first one back. So yeah, looking forward to it tonight.
Should be good. Thank you for coming on. Justin, welcome back on twice in quick session. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all good, thank you. Great panel, and yeah, man, I'm always happy to be on there, especially talking about Tottenham when we've got a little break, so it's good.
Yeah, exactly that. Thank you very much, Justin. And making his debut on the podcast, I've got Ben Booman. How are you doing, Ben?
Yeah, I'm doing very well, Harry. Long overdue. I don't think you and I have also never been on videos together before. It's great, to finally talk to you and have something to do with 2 weeks of no Spurs to watch. So it's nice to be around fellow Spurs fans and have actually something useful to pass the time by.
Exactly that, Ben. Thank you. It's a real pleasure to have you on. Travis, your fourth guest for tonight, but yeah, as I say, absolutely not the last. Thank you very much. How are you doing?
Yeah, really well, thank you, Harry. Good to be back on. Obviously, it's been a while since being on a pod. So yeah, good to be back on. I don't know what's worse, either not watching Tottenham at the moment or having an international break. I can't really find the in between with that. But yeah, the international break is always boring. Yeah, as you said earlier, we've qualified already, so I won't be watching too much of it. But yeah, good to be back on. Obviously, talking all things Spurs. Obviously, we've got a lot of positive things to talk about. So yeah, looking forward to it, and thank you for having me back on.
Anytime. Thank you for listening on YouTube and you're new. Please subscribe if you enjoy this in particular bit of content. Please do like. If you're listening via audio, that's a podcast platform. Don't forget to drop a follow and a 5-star review. Let's get straight into it then with a quick shout out with our partners in the Kitman, Everything Spurs Discord, Dan Gay Support Services in the 290 and Tottenham Programme Collector, our 5 non-paid partners. But season review. Philip, kick us off. What have you made of the season so far? Are you happy with our start? Are you content? Are you disappointed? Talk me through
it. I think it's we've had so many interesting matches so far this season already. Going from quite a few highs to quite a few lows as well. But look, I mean, overall, bearing in mind we changed the manager in the summer, we've kind of gone for someone completely different from our old manager, in terms of kind of outlook and approach to football and to how to kind of play and how to kind of take on teams and how to build up teams and the whole kind of approach. So I think after only a couple of months in, really 2.5 months really of the season gone, I'm satisfied. I'm actually pretty happy with where we are at the moment. There was part of me knowing how Frank has kind of started at clubs. I think when he joined Brentford, famously, he didn't win any of his first 7 or 8, and I think even in his previous role in Denmark, he didn't win for like 6 or 7 games, something like that. It takes time to adapt to a new style, but also you have to remember the fact that he's taken over a team that lost 22 times in the league last season, plus all the losses in the cup competitions. We won a trophy, which is great, and as always, I have to put the disclaimer in there. I'm eternally thankful to Ange, for winning us that trophy, and he stays some kind of legend, right, for that perspective, right, and the players as well for doing that. But the fact is, the team, wasn't functioning, for the majority of the season. And certainly from a defensive perspective, the structure, the midfield, wasn't working. And, even the attacking moves weren't working. So I think, the fact that Frank has come in and, when you look at the table, I know it's very close in the table, but we're still where we are in the table. We've still picked up those points. I believe we still have the best away record in the league. That may have changed. I'm not sure, but I think we probably should still have that record. And if we could only sort our home form out and obviously get ourselves moving a bit better, in terms of our attacking structure and moves, then, we'd all be, I think, extremely, extremely happy. But again, you look at the players that Frank doesn't have at his disposal. We're missing, 10 players. We're missing 80 goal contributions from last season. We don't have really any of our top attacking creative players apart from Xavi, who is a new signing. We don't have a striker, really. So look, I mean, when you add it all up, I'm definitely, I'm just kind of reconvincing myself, I think, there. But I'm actually very happy with how it's gone so far. But obviously, there's some elements that, the coaching team and Thomas Frank together and the players need to sort out sooner rather than later, and that includes just getting results at home, and playing on the front foot a bit better. But again, does that come once the players that were missing come back? Does it come with time? Let's see. But yeah, overall I'm positive. I still am very happy with the decision to get Thomas Frank in as our new manager. I think he's going to be a success for us. So yeah, I'm happy. Actually, yes, I'm happy. Yeah,
that's good. Thank you. Appreciate that, Philip. Justin, I come to you next. I mean, the starts of the season that we've had, is it a case of better or similar or worse than you originally expected?
To be honest, I think it's much better than what I was expecting. Just from the PTSD of the last 2 years of how we've been defending, yeah, much better. To be honest, I wasn't one who wanted Frank. Like, I wanted us to go for that elite manager. If we were going to start again, I was thinking, go for someone who's just won like crazy, actually back the guy and go forward. But everyone spoke highly of Frank. So I thought, yeah, why not? And so far, I'm not too worried. There's obviously certain parts of the game where we're lacking quality, but that's just normal in most teams, especially when it comes to creativity with the amount of players what we've lost. So to be honest, like Richie, yeah, you already know how I am with Richarlison. The fact that he's our top goal scorer, it says it all about where we are with our team, the quality wise, and the fact that we're still up there in the table. It shows that we're doing well. And I wasn't expecting it. Obviously, home form's a whole different thing, but a lot of that home form and pain is from previous seasons going into this season. So I'm used to how we was at home. But away form, yeah, no, we've done well. We're top of the league for away form, but obviously home form, like I think we're like bottom of the league, which is quite crazy. But yeah, no, we've played well. I can't really complain.
Okay, no, that's good. You both said so far that you think we've started well, which is of course good. You never know when a new manager comes into the club. How you're going to start. You have to get a new manager bounce. Is it going to be sustained? Is always the question. Ben, I'll come to you on Thomas Frank. Do you think he's done well so far?
I think he's done excellent, really. I do think a lot of fans still have this theory in their head of this is the team that won the Europa League last season. I mean, it is, but this is the team who finished 17th in the league last season. So Thomas Frank has essentially had to come in and rebuild this literally from ground zero without his two most creative players in Kulusevski and Maddison, without a real striker. So he's had to build his team from the back, which he's done in pretty much every game this season. And as I said, away from home, it's been virtually flawless. I think, not including Brighton, we've won every single away game this season in the Premier League. He's not mentioning all the injuries he's had. Green out, Bergvall, Kudus, Romero in some very form in some games this season have been missing. Like, he's had no consistency in being able to have an 11 that you can have every single week. So given all of that circumstance, he has been doing very, very well. Obviously, there's been a couple of things that have put some question marks. I think, some of the, particularly at home, the attempts I feel like feels a bit too reliant on keeping teams out instead of going for the juggling, which at home you need to do. But it's, it isn't an overnight fix. It needs time. That fans need to give him time. Certainly the club has got to give him time and give him, what he needs. But I think when you consider everything from last season, what he came in with and how he's done so far, I think he's done very, very good.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate that. I personally do agree with you on that. Appreciate you giving your thoughts there. Travis, for you, Thomas Frank, has he improved us so far?
Yeah, I think he has. Obviously, he got left the same team. Obviously, Ange did. And I've always liked Frank's philosophy, and I've always liked the way he manages a football club. I thought he was brilliant at Brentford. Obviously, got him up for the Championship. So I've always known he's a good manager. His attacking style, his formations that he plays. I think again he's just been another manager who's been very unlucky with injuries. Obviously, with Dragusin being out, Maddison being out, Kulusevski being out, and a couple more. So I think with the team that he's got, I think he's worked quite well with it, and I think he's done remarkably well in the Champions League, obviously, given that he's never actually played or managed a team who actually play in the Premier League. So I give him a lot of respect for that. And I think going forward, I think he'll know exactly what players that he wants, what players that he needs. I'm a bit worried about when Maddison comes back from injury. Is he going to be the same player? Same for Kulu as well. Are these going to be the same players? That is my worry. But yeah, I think Frank's been brilliant, really, really good. I like the way he does press conferences. I like his before match. I like his after match. Whereas obviously Andrew's really boring to listen to, and just the same spiel all the time. He's a really positive manager. So yeah, and obviously he gives the youngsters a run as well. I mean, Scarlett when he come on, who did we beat the other night in the Champions League? I can't think who we played now. Who was it when Scarlett come on? Was it Champions League that he come on for? Or was it a Premier League match? I can't remember.
Yeah,
but anyway,
a couple of times he's come on now. Most recently, yeah, he did. Done well.
Yeah,
Copenhagen.
That's it. Yeah, and I think you got to give these players a run. We've done the same thing with Harry Kane, and I think Scarlett. I mean, Mourinho rated him extremely highly when he was there. So I think Scarlett is one of the main players that needs a good couple of games. It's good to see that he's obviously given Kingsky a bit of a run as well. I think Kingsky needs a lot more time on the football pitch than what Vicario does. But I think he manages the team well. I think I'm not going to say his substitutions are perfect all the time because they're not, but probably 7, 8 out of 10, I think they are where they need to be. Yeah, and I think just as a manager as a whole, he conducts himself well, he holds himself well. So yeah, I'm without sounding biased, I'm glad he's at Tottenham. I think he's going to be a really good manager for us. I think, given the season that we've had so far, we've been in a lot worse positions. Obviously, with Ange last year, So I think that's the way people need to be looking at it. I've seen people calling for Frank's head already, but it's just the way some Tottenham fans work. I think we lose a couple of games. We're not where we want to be ideally in the league. Obviously with the other team obviously being top of the league at the moment, but they gave Arteta time, and look where they are now. It pains me to say that because obviously I am a Tottenham fan, but the proof is there. If you give these managers time, they will build a foundation, they will build a team, and they will work their way up to the top. And I think Frank is the right man for that. I really do.
Absolutely, I agree with you. All of you come towards a similar thing. He's done well and he needs time. That's the feeling I get from all of you, and I think Spurs fans in general are feeling the same. And I just think you need to give him time. He's coming to a club. It'd be funny if we all know the positive for last season, right? We won the Europa League, that cannot be ignored. If we focus on the negatives, the amount of goals we conceded, and we often knew if Tottenham went 1-0 down in a game, it could often be out of our sight quite easily, which was always a shame. It just felt how many was it going to be rather than are we going to concede again? It's how many can you count on your hands, and that was a real problem. I think this year Frank's come in and we've kept clean sheet in 50% of our matches. That's a big improvement, if you ask me. But Justin, I'm going to come back round to you. The big question that everyone seems to want to ask is that can Frank take us to the promised land? I assume by that they mean, winning trophies like Ange did last season. So for you, is Frank the man?
Yeah, I believe so. At the end of the day, it's all about everything has to be working at that time, and you need a bit of luck. Because before that, who was it who actually got us a cup? What was it, like Ramos? And yeah, obviously we had Ledley, people like that, but no one at that time would have thought this is the guy, even though he was doing well at Seville. So yeah, and I believe he can do it. He's a tactician, and he's someone who overthinks, and I don't mind that with my managers. I like someone to really try and work out their opponent. And when it comes to one-off games, who knows at the end of the day, especially if we've got majority of our actual players fit, then yeah, I believe he can. And what is really the promised land? Are we talking about the Champions League, or are we just talking about another cup? So if it's another cup, then it's possible. It's the luck of the draw as well. That's it always comes down to it, because we could have got any other weak teams going through, but we got Newcastle and we got undone with that one. But yeah, I believe he can do it, especially if the club are saying we're moving different and we're focused on the success of the actual football club. Then I believe so, because come January I expect to see reinforcements.
Thank you very much, Justin. Appreciate that. So standout individuals then. Philip, I'll start with you. For you, like if you had to pick a few, who would you say has impressed you this season?
Oh, there's been a couple. I mean, obviously, Kudus coming in and kind of hitting the ground running really from the first minute, right, of the first game. He had a great impact. He's obviously been missing for the last couple of games. And I think just before that, he went slightly off the boil, but, he's been played every minute of the season pretty much so far, hasn't he? So I'm a bit worried about him being overplayed moving forward, but Kudus has definitely impressed me. Also based on, the fee that we paid for him, right? He's, in my opinion, he's worth a lot more than that, really. We paid 50 million for him, and I know West Ham fans were kind of like laughing at us because they thought that actually, we'd kind of pay too much or something, right? In the end, but he's probably worth 80 million or something, right? But again, I think that he needs to work in an even more functioning team moving forward, probably to get the best out of him. Have someone else on the left and have the number 10 working to take the responsibility away from him a bit. But he's been fantastic. Palina obviously has had a great impact since signing. He's shored us up in the middle. He's chipped in with goals. He's been that player that we've really been missing, I would say, the last couple of years. That proper kind of CDM, big, strong, wins kind of the majority of his 50-50s. He's been great for us. Of course, there's been the challenge maybe of getting the balance right in the centre of midfield with him and Bentancur or someone else, the double pivot, all of that stuff. But from an individual perspective, he's been a great addition. And I would probably just say on top of that, really, I would still do a little shout out to Tell and to Odobert. I know like a lot of fans have been kind of expecting maybe even more from them in some respects, maybe Odobert especially. He's been a couple of years now. Whenever he plays until recently, he hasn't really kind of set the game alight, but he's done important things, and certainly in the last game, he changed the game, didn't he? Really, after coming on, and Tell as well. He's had to deal with the disappointment of being kind of dropped from the Champions League squad, but he's chipped in with some really important goals. Along the way. I think Leeds was that one goal, and obviously now in the last game as well. And there's a lot more to come from both of those lads. They're only both 20. They're scoring goals for fun for France under 21s. They got a lot of skill. They can play in different positions. So I'm excited about them moving forward. I think they deserve a shout out. Apart from that, probably Mickey van der Ven. I think he's kind of embraced, his extra leadership responsibility, being captain a couple of times in Romero's absence, and being a vice captain now or being part of the leadership group, whatever it's called. You know, obviously his goal, but I think he's kind of embraced that a bit as well. So I would probably shout
sorry
him
to
out.
interrupt, Philip, but and I agree with you. But some would say, look, storming past your manager and not clapping the fans isn't like vice captaincy or on the night actually stepping in for captain like behaviour.
Yeah, and to be fair, like after that happened, I was really annoyed with him and Spence, you know, and I called that out, and I think I said straight away they need to. It's a bit of a disgrace, you know.
You
And
did,
look,
yeah.
I think, you know, there were some fans again. You know, there's some of the usual suspects online as well on X or wherever I would say, but there's a lot of those negative fans who kind of combine that incident, you know, together with the kind of Frank out. Let's question Frank. You know, there's unrest behind the scenes already. You know, which obviously was, to be honest, complete rubbish. And, you know, I think it was proven that, you know, both of those players, him and Spence, had a bit of a shocker in that game, didn't they? It was that they essentially caused Chelsea's goal and they didn't play well. And, you know, I think it was an isolated incident. And look, I mean, that's something you've got to learn from, isn't it? Especially in Mickey's case. You know, Spence, I don't want to get on his back too much, but he's had form in the past, I think, you know, for kind of attitude, but he's obviously come back and proven, you know, that he can obviously raise his game and be consistent and fight for it. So, you know, respect to Spence for that. But these things can happen, and I think looking at it positively, looking at it retrospectively, I think they'll both learn from that. And you'd like to think that in Mickey's case, being vice captain and being captain at the time, you know, that's something that he will, you know, probably regret a bit maybe, and, you know, kind of learn from that. And I think they will. I think those, to finish off, I think those are the players for me that that have stood out for me and probably deserve a shout out. There's been a couple of players that I haven't been that impressed with overall, or I've felt that, you know, haven't really added to kind of maybe how the team's playing. The last thing I would say, just quickly while I'm still on, is whenever Udogi's played, you know, he's played well for me, and I would shout him out as well, because he's performed when he's come in. And I think I've said it before in the pod, and I've certainly said it in the WhatsApps and stuff, but for me, actually, Udogi is one of our most important players, because he just gives us that natural balance on the left, and he offers us that attacking kind of way down the left, allowing Odobert to come inside or Xavi to play off that as well. So I'd give kudos, not kudos, but kudos to Udogi as well. But I think there'll probably be some other players in the squad who haven't impressed so far, and well, I think his name's already been mentioned at least once so far tonight, but I'm sure someone else might talk about him. But yeah, I think that's it for me. But there is standout performances, right? So that, I think that also shows, though, that the players do believe in Frank, right? And they believe that in the project, they understand that Frank is building something, and they've got to reboot, they've got to reset, you know. So yeah, I think there's a lot of positives, to be fair, that you need to bear in mind, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Quick pause for shout out a couple of people in the YouTube chat for those listening live. Big up firstly to Harrison, who says, hi. David Clark says, when we were talking about players that really impressed, he said, for me, Paulinho, Romero, Van der Ven, Kudus, Bentancur, then I'm really scratching my head. And he adds maybe Danso, but only he's defending, because in possession he looks too nervous. Big up to Hart, says, yo, what's up, chat, and how are you, Harry? Yeah, very good, thank you. I mean, I had a good day at college. It was all about creating podcasts, so I've already done 2 of these. So 2 down, 2 more to go. I wouldn't have it any other way, but thank you very much for checking in. But I want to keep this whole conversation about individuals. And Ben, I'll come to you to flip the question. Anyone that you've been disappointed in, or maybe you think, okay, I've done okay, but I'd expect to want a little bit more?
I think there's a few that come to mind on that. Well, I think it's already been mentioned. Richarlison, even though there have been moments like of genuinely good from him, the opening day against Burnley, that even the away at Man City, who was with that low striker role, he did very, very good. But there have been too many times where his been completely anonymous and missed what looked to be like chances you would expect the, your centre forward number 9 to put away pretty convincingly. Then there was the penalty miss, obviously, against Copenhagen, which it's fair to say didn't endear him. Against Chelsea as well, he was nowhere. And I know we got the goal right at the end against United, but I think, with respect, that was due to being in the right place at the right time. It could have been any player in that position. So he's definitely one. Another one that comes to mind, I don't like saying it because I do like him, but for me, Brennan Johnson, I know he's got a lot of goodwill about him through, because he did very well. He was probably player of the season last year, not just through his goals, obviously the winner of the Europa League final, and he always seemed to be able to drag you out of a situation. But really, this season is just not clicked at all. There's times where he's been playing out of position. Obviously, that's not ideal. But even so, he's not. The attack, every time it seems to fall to him, it just seems to fall apart at the final third of the pitch when he's got the ball. And I think that's partly why we've seen the over-reliance on Kudus so much this season for as brilliant as he's been, because you need your others like Richarlison, like Johnson up there to help him out, and he's just not done that enough, which is very frustrating. Also on that front, it's a bit of it's a hit and miss one, but for me, Bentancur, there were some games he looks incredible, and other games he's partly giving away some stupid goals, but then on some games he's been absolutely incredible. And I think it's been highlighted the fact that Paulinho has come in and is that solid rock in the middle. So when you have that one who's this holder, the sitter, you need the other one in the middle to go be the more expressive of the two. And Bentancur's got it in him to do that, and we've seen him do it, but he doesn't produce it enough. If Thomas Frank is going to take us, further and further along, which I do believe he can, he needs, those performances more consistently from Bentancur, from that like of player, to do, because you need consistent. You can't just turn it on and off like a switch. You need to be able to deliver those performances. That's why do you think Man City and Liverpool for the last 10 years have literally won every trophy that you can win? Because they do it every game against. It doesn't matter who they play against, whether it's Burnley, whether it's against Arsenal, whether it's Champions League finals, FA Cup finals. You always need them consistently every single game, and I think it applies to who I've said, but I think it applies to a lot of our squad in a way. Then that consistency to deliver solid 8s out of 10s every single game. If we're going to get to that level, that's what we need to do.
I think you're absolutely right. I think you make some really good points. So Ben, I really appreciate your thoughts there. Travis, I'll come to you. Which players do you think Frank has improved the most? Who stands out to you?
I think Bergvall's been absolutely brilliant personally. And let's not forget, and a few of the guys have already mentioned him, Paulinho. I think he's been absolutely brilliant, and I really generally do hope we sign him on a permanent. Obviously, I know he's 30, 31, so he's, getting to that stage, but I think he's got a few more years in him left in his tank yet. I think he's been absolutely brilliant. I'd say also Sarr as well. And for me, I think, I've said it on podcasts before, I generally, for me, I don't think you can play Paulinho and Bentancur on the same midfield. I think it has to be Bentancur and Sarr, or Bentancur and Bergvall. But we started the season with Sarr and Bentancur playing in that midfield, and it works like an absolute dream. Obviously, Paulinho will play that bit more deeper. And obviously Bentancur will obviously operate the midfield a bit more. But yeah, I think Frank's done quite a good job with quite a few players. To be fair, I know Ben just mentioned Brennan Johnson. I just don't rate Brennan Johnson at all. Really, I think he got the goal in Europa League. Let's not forget that. But for me, he's not at Kudus standards, and I think when Kudus isn't playing, I think the whole team kind of feels it, because I think he just plays such a vital part. With his crossing is so much better than Brennan Johnson's. He will take on his player. He's strong. He's physical. So yeah, I think he's been a massive sign. I think Phil said earlier, if Kudus has got to be at least 80 mil player. I think 50 mil from West Ham was an absolute steal. I think we had their pants pulled down with that a little bit personally. I think that's absolute daylight robbery, really. Yeah, but I think Frank's done quite a good job with most of the players. Richarlison started off really well. Obviously scored a good couple of goals, but he's now died off. But yeah, I think the morale in the team is quite good, and for me, I think with Van der Ven and Spence obviously storming off the other week, it doesn't look very good on a screen, for supporters to be watching. But don't get me wrong, I don't condone it at all, and I think it's very disrespectful. But I do kind of understand it, and I do understand what position they're and how they're feeling at the moment in time. Obviously, given last season, they just want the best and they want to be winning games. They want to be up there with the best. So, I can see both halves on it. So I was on the fence with that one a little bit, as disrespectful as what it was. But yeah, I can't, apart from maybe one or two players, as I said, Johnson being one of them. I don't think the team has actually been that bad. We've been in a lot worse positions with Frank, so I don't think it's fair to sit here and criticise the team too much, because I think we're in a pretty good position, as Phil said earlier. It's positive, it's good going forwards. Yeah, what's David Clark's there? Sally Bennett will never be able to. Yeah,
he's just saying Bentancur will never be able to perform to the ability. He'll never be the player that he was prior to his ACL injury. And I think he's talking about his offensive kind of output. And I also think when Ange coming in, I like Ange, but it's fine. But I think he changed his game to more of a possession-based, safe midfielder. Bentancur used to be this risk-taking, player who'd be really interested in the press and the risky passes. I just think his whole profile of player has changed. What do you think, Travis?
Yeah, I think Bentancur, I think, as you quite rightly said there, Harry, I think Bentancur is more of a safety net. He operates that midfield and he controls the midfield to a good standard. And he's been off the boil in quite a few games. But I thought against Man United, I thought he was brilliant. And even in the Champions League, I think he's been brilliant. He is a good player as a whole. So yeah, but then you could say, will Maddison be the same when he comes back from his injury? Will Kulusevski be the same when he comes back from injury? I think we're just so unlucky with injuries. We was with Ange, now we are with Frank. I don't know what goes wrong. I don't know how much they actually burn them to the floor in training sessions. I think I read an article on X the other day saying how physical and how demanding the Tottenham training sessions are. They're very, very full on. So yeah, I do get it. But yeah, I don't think Bentancur is a bad player. But for Johnson, I just don't think he's going to make it. The way he doesn't take on his defender, the crossing into the boxes, and just as a winger, and I think Kudus, I think that position is already sold to him. Really, I think he's kind of hit the road running ever since coming over from West Ham. And I've always said Mohamed Kudus would get into most teams, if not, Champions League teams. He's just that type of player. And 50 mil from West Ham. The fact it was from West Ham, the fact it was 50 mil was just incredible, really. So yeah, I'm really happy with him. And I think he's going to play a big part in the team more into the season and so on and so on. So yeah, as a whole, I think Frank's done well with the team.
Thank you, Travis. Appreciate that. Next, I want to move on to something that's been brought up in the comments. It was on my plan in my head to go through, and that is Jed Spence. And I think we can all agree, great player, but it's now a case of, a doggy back. What is his best position? Because for me, I like a doggy, for example, and I think he's a lot better than Spence at left back ultimately, because a doggy offers more going forward. I think offensively offers more in terms of balance, being naturally left-footed. So Spence has done well, and I think it's credit to him that we're even having this conversation, because Spence is a right back. Yeah, that's his bread and butter. That's his nature. It's the fact we're going, can he play left back? Should he be Tottenham starting left back? Is real credit to him. It's often forgotten. I forget sometimes, if I'm honest, that Spence, he's a right back. Justin, for you, where do you see Spence in terms of his place in this team, in the squad, and also his best position?
To be honest, I feel like he's our Carl Walker-Peters, as in he's just utility. He can play right, he can play left. With him, he was very unlucky for obviously how his career started with Tottenham and then going forward, then finally breaking into the team. And plus, he's very unlucky that the one person who he has to challenge to get his actual position, which is a right back, he's never injured and he never gets given time off either. So because Porro gets overplayed and Adoji's unluckily had injuries, that's where Spencer's able to play. But deep down, I believe he's a right back. That's where he should be playing, and we'd get a lot more from him because going forward, he doesn't have to think twice about. He can't really use his left like how he wants to, so he'll beat his guy on the right. He can beat players with ease. He's actually got a good cross as well, but again, we have to always use him on the left-hand side, and that's from poor management from our actual team for just not getting in another left back. We've been needing to get in a left back for ages, but somehow Ben Davis, was it 11 years at our club, somehow he's still here, so we just haven't got that replacement, and that's what's let us down the most. But yeah, Spence will do his job at left back if he needs to, as in defending wise. But yeah, going forward, yeah, it's just not how we need him to do. But it worked well with Ange because obviously Ange wanted the whole inverted game, so all he had to do was get into the inside, and he can defend the ball well, knock the ball on easily, and it was simple play. But if we need him to run down the line and cross the ball, he can again run down the line. But naturally, trying to cross it on the left foot, that's not his game. So yeah, I just feel like maybe when Frank gets more eased with the team, and maybe like January, if we actually get in another left back, it gives us the opportunity to use Spence more in his actual position, which is a right back.
Very good points there. I agree with you again personally. Thank you, Justin. Let's go on to the concerns. We talked about all the positives, but at the end of the day, you can always be better, even if you're top of the league. There's Arsenal at the moment. You can always, believe in better in yourself and get better and better. Ben, can I start with you on this kind of segue of conversation? Do you have any concerns so far based on what you've seen in the first few games of the season?
I think the only real the biggest concern, I guess you could have, is the lack of. It's probably most of the home games, but I think in away games as well. And I know Frank's having to compensate somewhat with the squad he's got, but there never seems I don't want to say an urgency, but like whenever we're in a position we need a goal, there doesn't seem to be a player who's prepared to go out of the box and risk something, even when we need to chase. And especially at home, we've seen that. Bournemouth, we never looked like scoring when we were conceded. Wolves, we left it literally to a Paulinho stutter because otherwise we would never. I think generally you are steady Spurs fan. Before that, we didn't look like a goal was coming. Chelsea, same. We never looked like scoring. Even Man United, I can tell you in that stadium, none of us thought a goal was coming till that last late blitz. So, and I think the other thing, it's not been mentioned enough. We need to think on Xavi Simons. Where exactly is he going to fit into this team? This is not me going on him ability-wise, because I believe the ability is there, and we've seen glimpses of it so far. But when Kulusevski, Madison, so like when we got, generally speaking, our best 11 out there, where does he fit into the team? Do you put him as a holding midfielder? Is it like a middle? Is it number 10? We've seen him used out wide. It doesn't seem to really work there. It's a good when you've got your place. It's a good dilemma to have, but it is something that I think needs to be figured out quickly because we don't want to have another player who's coming with a lot of promise and then end up being a bust. Not saying that he will, but it is a concern right now.
Absolutely. I think again you make a very good point, Chef, tonight. I think that's another one there. Thank you, appreciate that. Philip, can I call back round to you? I mean, Ben shared his concerns there. How do your concerns differ? Do you have any more, or do you support what he said?
No, I support what Ben said. I do wonder once certainly Kulusevski comes back, how Frank will kind of set up actually the team then with Xavi as well. Although I think that Kulusevski can kind of, I wonder whether he might play a deeper role, possibly, and kind of play number 8, but just literally play deeper together with a Palino or a Bentancur, and then Xavi can kind of still play in as number 10. I do still wonder as well whether Xavi will get more games on the left actually at some point, only because it might make it a bit easier for him if Udogi's playing, but that will only work when Udogi's playing. I agree with that aspect around Xavi. I do think, in terms of kind of being critical about the team, or looking at stuff which could be better, or needs to be better. I mean, obviously we've talked about the progression, of the ball, through the team, and kind of some players impacting that. I've defended Frank, I think, frankly, quite a lot. Like, in terms of the players are missing. We don't have the quality, to be able to play front foot amazing football. The only thing that I have to say, and especially when you are playing at home, and I know we're missing those players, but I did see a stat yesterday which put us bottom, I think, of the league out of all teams in terms of the amount of through balls played. I'm not sure how they define the through ball per se, like whether it's a ball, kind of to the striker or through the midfield, right? But we were bottom of that. I think we had 4 through balls so far this season, and the top team was the other lot down the road, or rather from Woolwich, rather, who had like 45 or something like that. So, the one thing I would say is that, even with the players that we've got, and even if someone like Bentancur isn't playing like he was before his injury, and when Sar's been playing, or when you've still got Kudus or Odebel, those kind of players in there, or Romero and Mickey van der Ven kind of playing out from the back, there is just part of me that has to criticize that a bit, regardless of the missing players, and just say, why or how can we just not manage to get that ball through midfield quicker and easier, to the likes of Xavi, or to the wingers, or to the striker, whoever, because I don't think that Frank is playing like that. I don't think that Thomas Frank wants us to play like with the people have said he's got the handbrake on, he needs to take the handbrake off at home, especially. I don't know what that handbrake is. I don't agree with that. I don't think that he's setting up. Some people have said he's setting up not to lose. Well, yeah, he's kind of being a bit more pragmatic around it. That's for sure. But we're not playing with a super deep line. We play with quite a high line. I don't quite understand though why we're not capable just to improve it a bit, and that's my only question I would kind of put to Thomas Frank, but also maybe to the team in terms of concerns that I would have. Because we also cannot just say, it's just because Kulusevski's not there, or it's just because Maddison's not there. Of course, that would make a massive difference. But still, with the players we have, I still believe, and I hope it's just going to come with time, bearing in mind that Frank's only been there 2.5 months. And we have pretty much won every away game. I think, especially at home, for whatever the reason is, I would just maybe like to think that with time, the players playing together, getting more used to, the way that they want to kind of approach the games, in terms of also being a bit more tighter at the back, that progressive passing does just develop maybe automatically a bit better, or that the likes of Bentancur get back up to full form, where he just looks to turn and pass it forwards, because I don't understand that. If I'm being honest, I don't quite understand why it's that bad, But again, I think it is the lack of quality. I think there's a lack of maybe confidence in the centre of the park. You know, Bergvall has been very good, as Trav was saying. You know, he's been excellent, but he also had a couple of poor performances. You know, he's obviously been out now with his head injury, and I think he's a confidence player as well. You know, Sarr as well. He's been really good actually the last couple of games again. You know, he likes to burst forward, but I think they're almost sometimes too scared to make mistakes. You know, I think they're worried about giving the ball away. You know, making a misplaced pass. And at home, especially, that's even more important. You know, our crowd get on their back, whether we like it or not. You know, as soon as the team, you know, gives away the ball, starts playing badly or negatively, we the home crowd, you know, hasn't been great the last couple of seasons anyway. But you know, they get on the back quite quick sometimes. The frustration's there, and I do wonder whether actually, again, it is a bit of that kind of home. You know, this. I don't want to call it a curse, but you know, it kind of is, isn't it? Because we've got the worst. Have we got the worst home record actually in the league or something like over the last 4 years?
Yeah, the worst home record
Literally.
in all I know is in 2025. It's worse than Fulham, West Ham, and Wolves. It's something like 3 wins at home. Did it say? I think it was on Match of the Day this year. And in this season, we've got like, is it the 19th worst home form and the best away form? So chalk and cheese, complete contrast. So.
So just to finish up on that, I think that's my main concern around. I've got no concern about the defense, as I said. You know, Ben mentioned as well. You know, with Spence and you know, Udogie. I mean, Spence, he's not a left back for me. He can do a job there, but he's not a left back. He needs to play right back. We need a left back in Jan. That is a concern for me still. I hope we get a left back in Jan to back up Udogie. But I just hope that Frank and the players together can work on that. Maybe taking risks, you know, or if that's what it is, you know, like maybe just being able to have the confidence, you know, to be able to even take risks, even if the player quality isn't there. Do you know what I mean? I just wonder whether they're just a bit kind of stuck mentally, you know, whether they're a bit scared to do that, maybe, you know, because they've also been kind of a bit traumatized from, like, you know, shipping God knows how many goals last season, you know, and now they're almost stuck in the middle a bit, you know, like, but again, I'm hopeful that's going to come with time, and with Kulusevski hopefully coming back soon, and Solanke hopefully as well at some point, you know, that will kind of increase the options of passing through the centre as well. So look, let's see, but that's the main issue for me, I think, moving forward.
Thank you, Philip. I appreciate that. David Clark says in the YouTube comments that Bergvall, Sarr, and Bentancur are neither number 6s, so defensive midfielder, or like a central midfielder, because he says number 8, so neither 6s or 8s. That's why we're struggling to create. Justin, can I come to you? I want to get your thoughts on this. Where do you see all 3 of those players, their best position? By all means, talk through each one by one. I'm interested to know where you think their best position is.
Well, to be honest, I believe they've all got the same type of profile. They're more box to box. That's how I see them. They're capable of defending, running back, doing the quick defending and getting the interceptions, and they're capable of pushing up, getting into the box, stringing some good passes, but they're not creative enough for me to say that they're a 10, and they're not defensive enough for me to say that they're a 6. So for me, it has to be the box to box 8. That's how I look at all of them. And with Bentancur, I just feel like loss of confidence where it comes to how, because like you were saying before, for me, he was in that type of mold like a Ndombele where he'd beat players. He didn't mind dribbling past 3-4 players. He's got a good enough cheeky pass to able to string it forward, and he can tackle. But yeah, for me, I feel like they all can do it. Same with Sarr at the moment, because he hasn't played as much recently. I feel like the simple passes is what he's been failing on. Just the simple passes. Instead of trying to do a crazy through ball, it's just a simple pass what he's been slipping on. And I feel like that's just through lack of that sharpness. But yeah, I feel like, again, with Bergvall, he is a try-hard. Because of how last season ended for him and he didn't get to be in the final and all that. And I feel like he wants to continue the season with form. He just tries a bit too hard. Whereas Gray, he doesn't really get the chances he needs to in midfield, but I feel like he's a lot more confident. And I feel like, just like how Phil was saying it before, it's all a mindset. A lot of the times with our players, it's the mindset of able to feel like I can take the risk and it doesn't matter. And that's one thing I've rated Ange for a lot, was always talking about taking a risk to go forward, even though obviously it was over the top. But I feel like that's where we are missing the Maddison. That's where I feel like that excuse is there with that, as in, because Maddison is a player that he doesn't care. He's still going to try and do that type of pass no matter what. So yeah, with those three players, I just feel like for me they're just box to box.
Thank you, appreciate that. I mean, to answer your questions, well, David, I'll give it a go. So all three players, I agree. I think Justin's right; they're all box to box, but people won't agree with me. I don't think. But I start with Bergvall. For me, it's difficult. I think he's definitely more of a creative player. I don't know whether he necessarily is a 10, so I'd lean towards the 8 for now to play it safe. So I'd actually would say potentially, well, definitely not a 6, but either an 8 or a 10. But I like him when he started in that 10. I think it's because he's more centrally and further forward more than anything. But the problem is, of course, when he's in that 10, you don't see him quite as much. You still see him a lot box to box, but not as much as you would see an 8. So if I had to pin it down, I'd say Bergvall I see as an 8, Sarr a 10. Ben Score will be played as a 6, but I'd like him at least as an 8, because I remember when he first joined for the club, he was the one that used to pinch the ball back and force errors. If anything, his attacking is a 10. So, but I will probably lean again to play it safe towards the 8. Comment here from Ginger Pele says, even it would be great if we could discuss Vicario at some point. Come on then, let's discuss it now. Good idea. Sounds good to me. Travis, you're not in, so I'm going to come to you first about Vicario. How do you feel in terms of him? Is it a case that Tottenham need a goalkeeper upgrade or replacement? And if they do, is it now? Can it wait? Where do you sit in the whole goalkeeping situation?
I don't rate Vicario at all. I know he's pulled off a couple. No, I just don't know, because he's just not consistent enough for me. You know, I think Kingsley is so much more better with his feet. He's a lot more composed. He's a lot more mature, I'd say. And I think it's just that I just think with Kingsley, you know, if a corner's coming in or if a free kick's coming in, you know he's probably going to catch it. Whereas, you know, prime scenario when we played Man United the other day and we drew 2-2 and De Ligt scored in the last minute. No goalkeeper should ever be beaten at the near post ever, and Vicario was. He's too flappy for me, and I just think Kingsley just needs a lot more run of games. I'm not saying Champions League, but I just think he needs a lot more run of games, and I think he just. Yeah, I think somebody put in the chat earlier about him potentially going out on loan. I just don't think he should really be going out on loan. I just don't think that would be the right solution for him. I mean, you look at City, and I know we can't compare Tottenham to City because City are obviously City, but they've gone from having Ederson in goal, who was absolutely fantastic, to now having Giangerini, Donnarumma. You know, the standard and the quality is exactly the same, if not better. And I think that's just where we don't have that oomph to get these goalkeepers in. So for me, I think we either need to be looking for another goalkeeper in January or give Kingsley a lot more run of games. Because I just see a lot more potential in Kingsley than what I do with Vicario. I just don't think he's consistent enough. I just don't. Yeah, I just think he's got too much. I can't really put my finger on it. I just don't. He's just too flappy for me.
Yeah, Travis, I think you make some really good points. Consistency is a very key word, and I really like Vicario. I'm very quick always to jump to his defence. I'm sure I will in a minute, but consistency is a problem. You know, he's up here or down here. I think that's fair enough. And some would say, can Vicario get better? I'd say probably not too much, but at the same time, I think his game's changed under Frank. Travis, do you at least see Vicario as a good shot stopper, but maybe someone that doesn't command his box or isn't quite as good as his feet? Maybe someone like Kinski, as he suggested, maybe he's better in that department. It'd be great, wouldn't it, if we could combine both Vicario and Kinski in a way?
Absolutely, Harry. If you could combine Kingsley and Vicario together, I think we'd have the best goalkeeper in the world. But obviously, that's not obviously going to happen. But I just think, I think just the way he commands his box, I think he's just too. I think his confidence with corners coming in and free kicks and stuff like that. I I just don't think it's there. And don't get me wrong, he has pulled off a couple of good saves. But for me, I think his distribution, I think Kingsley's distribution is so much better than Vicario's, a lot more better.
Yeah.
I just don't trust him. I just don't think he's as good as what people make out. But that's just my opinion. But I just think Kingsley, number one, I don't think he should be put on loan. Number two, I think he needs a lot more run of games. I mean, Frank might see something completely different in the training session. But it's a training session compared to playing a Premier League match or a Champions League match. So for me, I just think Kingsley needs to be kept at the club, and I just think he needs a lot more run of games. If he goes on loan, I will be extremely disheartened, like I was with what's his name, the centre back that went to went on loan. I can't think of his name now. Vlahovic, was it Vlahovic? Vuskovic. Yeah, another one that I don't think should have gone on loan, but that's just
Right.
my opinion. I don't think Kingsley needs to go on loan. I really don't. That would be so painful if he does, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, fair enough. You're absolutely entitled to that. Thank you, Travis. And Ben, I'm going to come to you in a second on Vicario, but before I do, I've got a couple of comments here. So has Spurs TV, a content creator, big up to him. He says Vicario doesn't come out to command for corners. He adds Vicario won't get better. Kinski will, but we need a top keeper for now. And David Clark, who has a lot of experience of seeing Tottenham goalkeepers over the years, says Vicario is not a top keeper. I've watched top football since 1960, so I've seen all the world's best keepers. And if there were a list of keepers to put in a book, it would have to be the 300 pages long. He adds Vicario's weaknesses far outweigh his attributes. That's why you all need to know to evaluate his position. Fair enough, David. I think you're feeling that you're very strong and adamant in your opinion there, so you're actually again entitled to that. Thank you, Ben. I'm going to ask you about Vicario. Where do you stand on him? Should he still be Tottenham's number one, or do we need to have a conversation, a grown-up one, about finding another goalkeeper?
I personally think he is, and he should be, because in my opinion, his good performances outweigh his bad ones. If you look through this season as well, Man City away made some really, really crucial saves to get us to that win. The Monaco game, goodness only knows what the scoreline would have been if he pulled off at least 5 or 6 unbelievable worldies to scrape us out of there with a draw. Even the Chelsea game that we lost, he kept us in that as well. So, and the way that you see football played, when keepers, when attackers get behind defenders, you need a keeper who's quick on his line and has good reactions. And Vicario has proven that he can do that. The Everton game, the Bento bicycle kick, the reaction he made to save that. Yes, he does have weak spots in him. Most notably, I know a lot of people go on set plays. I think his philosophy has always been you have to come out and catch everything. I don't think he maybe doesn't have a natural trust in his defenders to sort that out. And I know, going back to the United game, the Delict goal right at the end, I mean, first of all, Delict shouldn't have been unlocked at the back boots in the first place, but it's always been highlighted as his weak area. At times he does do some silly things, but I think ultimately he is a very good keeper, and I do believe that Kinski, on the subject, will eventually. I think Kinski will be positioned to eventually take his place. I think he needs to run through the season at some point. If we get on the cup run, if he gets started all those games as well, he can get that consistency of run out there. Because I do believe he's got the attributes. It's just his step build up. You can't expect to throw him in a game, because I think he did have a bit of a mirror in the Newcastle Cup game. But to be fair, you can't just judge him on a game. You've got to give him a length, to show what he can do. And so I think for now, Vicario should be our main man. But I do believe eventually Kinski will overtook him and be, Spurs' new first choice.
Thank you, Ben. Very sensible there, thinking about the long term and not rushing it. There's no need to rush it, is there? I agree with you. Thank you. And the guy who asked the question in the YouTube comments, the Ginger Pele, has now since said that hopefully Vicario can learn quickly from the goalkeeping coaches, such as set plays, and crosses, etc. He's poor there and also shaky with kicking, so too shaky. He says overall, big up Ginger Pele. Hope that response from a couple of different people was all right for you. But before we get to end of season predictions, there's a couple of things I do want to talk about. If people just join in now, I promise it's not all doom and gloom for about 45 minutes. It's all about the positive for Tottenham season. And, some would think we're so-called happy clappers, but we've got to cover all the grounds. I do believe in that. But an issue I think we can all agree is an issue, if that makes sense, amongst us Spurs fans, is our home form. Some would say it's caused by this, it's caused by that, or it should be the main priority. It should be just a priority. That's where I think the differences of opinion is. Justin, can I come to you? Is our home form right now for you the number one issue that Frank should be prioritising?
I believe it is, but one quick thing about Vic, out of all the games he's played this season, there's only been one goal for his actual error, and I think he's only I think it's 2 shots for errors out of a whole season. I get he's got his weaknesses, but if we really look at that, that's a top level keeper there. But obviously our home form is disgusting. But again, I feel like it's more of a mindset thing than to how we actually play. I expect our away form to be good just because we've got quality there when we're just running at a team, when you're not having to think too much. It's an easy pass forward, you're counter-attacking, you're going to get your goal. Or obviously...
I think you put yourself on mute.
Oh,
there you go.
Yeah, so again, home form, I just feel like, it's just more of a mindset thing. I just feel like players need to not worry about the crowd as much, whether they're going to groan. Every football team has to deal with that. So you just need to get past that and just still be prepared to go forward and try to get that goal, because it's not surprising that we're the lowest when it comes to free balls, because all we do is cross the ball. That's literally all we do. Now, I don't know if that's his game plan or because the players are just scared to take the risk and just knock the ball forward. So we just go for the easier one and try to cross the ball in. But home form's just one of them. I prefer our away form to be locked up right now with the amount of players that we're missing. So then when it does come back to when all our players are fully back, or at least a couple more players are back, I expect the home form to get better. But I think it's just down to the players. As long as the players aren't worried about the crowd groaning and just take the risk of that through ball. But then it comes to the quality up front. Who's making the runs? Who's actually doing that? And right now it's Richie. I believe Tell brings more when it comes to that creative run, but then it's who's there to make the pass. There's not many players who are going to risk it. Romero is probably one of the only players who will just risk that pass no matter what. Sometimes I look at him, I think, why have you gone for the pass? But it's got to the player instead of taking another 20 passes, doing a little rainbow football. So, Frank's got a lot to do, but I think it's down to the players. Like, the players need not to be scared and just pass the ball forward and rely that Richie's going to do something.
Your favourite player, Richarlison. You say that with a lot of confidence. Thank you, Justin, for that. Ben, can I come to you before we do get to those end of season predictions? In terms of our home form, for you, I know this is a really difficult question and it not necessarily requires a, boom, this is a definite reason why. But for you, home form, how do you think you fix it? Where do you start?
The most basic thing to fix it is to, I think it's been said obviously, but I do think the players overthink and try to react too much to how the crowd is sounding in the stadium instead of actually, looking on the pitch at what needs to be done, look ahead. And I think that overthinkness creates panic, and so we see it a lot of times, losing the ball in silly situations, ended up conceding chances and goals. Obviously you do need that crowd's energy to lift you, but at the same, to counter that, you've got to stick to what you are doing on the pitch, and that sometimes you've just got to put your head down and just going back to the United game, when Tell and especially when Odegaard came on, they just literally charged. They just had got the ball and just started gunning for that United defence, and that's ironically where both of the goals came from that. So, and it is a lot. I've been in the sim. It can get very, very frustrating when you just go from one side to the other side. Or if it's not an option, it's back to the keeper. And I do understand the element of it sometimes, and I've mentioned it, when you're chasing the game, sometimes you've just got to go in with a bit of reckless abandon, not over the top, but don't be scared to take a chance. Don't be scared of making that pass that could just thread you through and get you a goal. That if the players lose that element of fear in them, I think that's really what needs to be done, and hopefully, fingers crossed, with a bit of time, that will come eventually.
Hopefully, nicely put. Thank you, Ben, for that. End of season predictions then to wrap up. So where we think we'll finish in each of the 3 competitions we're left in, so Premier League, Champions League and FA Cup. So what I'm going to do is just go around the whole panel and a kind of quick fire response from all of you. You can't explain why, but we'll keep it brief. So firstly, Premier League. Where do we all think Tottenham finish in the Premier League? Philip, I'll start with you. League form. Where will we end up and why?
I think that we are going to potentially have a challenging couple of weeks coming up, but I think we're going to see a good December, and then we're going to get a bit of an improvement in our play going into next year. I am going to predict that we are going to finish 5th in the league. I think we can do it. I did think after the first couple of games that Frank played that we could even maybe finish 4th. I changed that and I went down to like 6th or 7th. But I honestly believe that, if we make the right tweaks and, players like Udogie get a bit of a run, Xavi keeps getting bedded in and we sort the striking situation slightly, Tell and Odegaard, I think there's a lot of upside still to come. And looking at the other teams in the league, I think we can do it. So I'm going to predict 5th. And I hope, and I'm not sure whether the 5th gets a Champions League spot this season. I don't know what the latest was on that with the kind of coefficient and everything, but
yeah, it should be top 5 this year. At the moment, of course, it's top 4, but the extra players as things stand will be going to at least one going to England again, from what I can understand. But it's always confusing.
So there you go. We're going to qualify for the Champions League next season again, because we're obviously not going to win it. So the Champions League,
Never say never, but yeah, you wouldn't think so. I don't think that's the aim this season. But at the same time, you're in a competition to win it. I believe that. Who goes into a Premier League season we shouldn't do anyway, going, I want to stay up or top 10. In the back of your mind, you have what would be acceptable and what wouldn't. But aim sky high. That's how I think. But yeah, realistically, being sensible, you're right. Thank you, Philip. Justin, Premier League, where will Tottenham finish then?
Oh, originally I said 8th. But so far, especially with how the away form is, and I'm going to be foolish and believe the board are going to back the manager through January, I believe we can at least get 6th. I believe so. Yeah.
6. Okay. Thank you very much, Justin. So we've got a 5th and a 6th. I'm liking this. This is okay. If you listen to the majority of Spurs fans, like 8th, 9th, and really, it's again in touch their opinion, but majority of us think we're finished outside of Europe. So I like this so far. I've got 5th and 6th. Ben, can you keep the optimism going? Where will we finish in the Premier League?
I think we're going to finish 4th. I truly think with everyone fit, I think realistically there's only 2 squads, I think. Maybe 3 who ultimately have got better squads than we do. I think once we've got everybody back fit, hopefully Kulisevsky's back by December. I think hopefully Solanke is too. If we get those two fit and firing, then this could become a very, very interesting season for us. And I truly think we're going to get top four quite easily, actually.
Absolutely. No, I think you make a good point there. Thank you very much. Fourth, optimistic. Love it. That's great. We've got a couple of comments in terms of where they think we're finished. David Clark, who always opts on the side of caution, but very sensible, says Premier League 7th. That doesn't surprise me. But again, I don't think that's too bad for Frank's first season, because you've got to remember he's expected to compete on multiple fronts. It isn't easy. If we went all out for the league, I think we could get top 4. Then we got top. I love that. The name says 5th, 6th feels realistic. I'm in that kind of boat, but I'm always seeing myself as slightly more optimistic, so I'd say 5th. Oh, come on, Travis. You are often the optimist. I'm hoping you keep this positivity going, but you have said a couple of things you're concerned with. You've dug up Vicario tonight.
That's not me digging Vicario out.
Oh dear. Did it get worse?
Yeah, I'm optimistic. I think we're going to go big in the January transfer window, and I think we're going to bring Eric Dyer back to White Hart Lane for one more season. So, no, that won't be happening. Yeah, I don't know. I think because of the run of games like the teams like Liverpool have had, and they're not playing particularly very good at the moment. Yeah, I'm going to go third, third or fourth. Yeah, more fourth, I think. Yeah, I can't really comment on the Champions League because Frank's obviously never played Champions League football before, so I can't really comment on where I think we'll finish in that. I do personally think he'll bring another trophy back to Tottenham, hoping that'll be the FA Cup. But yeah, I think we're going to have a really, really good transfer window in January. I think Frank knows exactly who he wants. Obviously, he got Paulinho in, which is one of the best signs I think we've had for a long, long time within that midfield. I'm a big fan of Paulinho. I know Phil is as well. So yeah, I think we'll have a good transfer window in January, and I think the end of the season could look really promising for us. I don't think we'll finish where we finished with Ange last year. I just can't see that happening. Yeah, not with the new added players that we've got in and how well they're playing. Obviously, Kudus being one of them. So yeah, I'm going to go fourth. Yeah, fourth for me.
Okay, I love this. So we all think we get at least minimum Europa League, and most of us saying Champions League. Love that. More of that, please, to stay amongst the fan base at times is definitely needed. But Champions League, then, this is where that kind of positivity, optimism will really be tested. I'm going to kick us off. I'm feeling bold. I think that with the games we've got and teams we've drawn against, I should say, in the league, I think it's favoured us. I don't think we'll quite go through a top 8 as I originally hoped and maybe thought, because we drew to Bodo Glimt, which is fine, but it just means a little bit of an uphill task. So I think we go through via the playoffs. I think somehow, because of the draws we've got, and maybe we're squeaky bum time at times, I think we get to the quarter-final of the Champions League, which I know is bold. Philip, for you, how far are we going in the Champions League?
I fully agree with you, Harry. To be honest, I would have said quarterfinals. I also think we won't finish in the top 8, and we'll go through the playoffs and we'll get to the quarters. But I think we'll probably just likely come up against a team in the quarters that is just clearly better than us. Whether it's likes of a Bayern or anyone else, right? But I think we can make it to the quarterfinals, and to be honest, I would be happy with that. Like overall, I mean, we all want to win the Champions, don't we? We want to get to semis, and do another kind of Ajax kind of thing. But I think realistically, we got to be honest, and unless if we see a massive upshot in our form, like massive, step forward, like that we start, really being amazingly creative, and we really are solid at the back. We literally get a massive jump up. Anything more than that, realistically, is probably not going to happen. I can't see us beating the likes of a Bayern over 2 legs right now. Even that lot down the road or anyone else who's in the Champions League, right? I think it's tough. But if the board invests in January, then You never know, right? If we get to the quarters, you never know. Maybe we play a team in the quarters that is doable over 2 legs. You know, you never know. We could meet someone like Dortmund or someone like that, right? That kind of level, who probably are doable over 2 legs. So you never know. But realistically, quarterfinals, I agree with you, and I think that would be a good return to the Champions League, right? Where we are at the moment.
It certainly would be. Thank you, Phillips. 2 quarterfinals. I love this. Please let it continue. Justin, I come to you. How far are we going in the Champions League?
Yeah, I probably agree with Phil there. I feel like quarterfinals and maybe semi-finals if we invest heavy and we transform this lineup a bit more, then yeah, obviously you just never know with the draw. But yeah, I believe at least minimum quarterfinals.
Love this. Minimum quarterfinals. Oh, love it in it. Honestly, it needs to, happen a lot more. This kind of positivity. I think the fan base are good. Don't get me wrong. But I just think we're reactionary. Kind of jump at defeat and jump at Frank. Because I'm in absolutely no doubt that if we'd lost to Copenhagen somehow or not beating Copenhagen and that Man United defeat, we hadn't got back in the game initially and lost the game, that we'd be talking about Frank being the job come the end of the international break, and that simply isn't right for me. That reaction straight away. But Ben, how far will we get in the Champions League, my friend?
I think basically the same as you guys. Quarters, I think, is very realistic. And really, once you've got to that point, at that point, it's really look at the joy of who you get. And at that point, it's what I know. People say, it's maybe not realistic to beat, over 2 legs, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, PSG. But then you look at last season, the Europa League. I think most of us thought the Europa League was going to end the quarters against Frankfurt, going into that second leg away from home. We got through it, and that really was the catalyst of. I know it was certainly luck of the draw with Bodo in the semis, but that would give us the belief to go on and win it. So really, if you get to that point, and I do believe we will this season in the Champions League, at that point it's anybody's game. But that's what I think.
Lovely. No, I appreciate that. Thank you, Ben. And Travis, what do you reckon? Champions League.
So for me, I think if we get Kulu back, Maddison back, and we go big in the January transfer window, I think we'll hit the quarterfinals, if not the semi-finals.
Woohoo!
However, if we don't get Maddison back or Kulu back or go big in the transfer window, I don't think we'll barely scrape the group stages.
Do you don't think we'll get anything first? Yeah, okay. No, I think that's realistic. A lot of it depends, of course, on injuries. In my personal opinion, I think injuries get a tiny little bit worse before they get better. I hope I'm wrong about that, but I think I'm just being realistic. I think when you come back after an international break, you get players that have played all through it. You get some, don't you? And they just come back and tired, and I think, boom, it hits them, travel and everything. And also the opposite. Some players that I think Porro and Vicario, I think Porro and Vicario, but I'm thinking mainly Vicario, to be honest with you. And Vicario and Udogie, I tell you what, they're the 2 I'm thinking of for Italy. Like last international break, they didn't play. They played 0 minutes, and they come back and boom, expectations to play 90 minutes every single week. And that I could be wrong. I'm no expert whatsoever, by the way, just to context and to clarification. But surely that can't do the body any good. You just go, do nothing.
Kills players. It really does, Harry. It kills players.
Yeah, I know, exactly. I know they've been doing training, but I just can't think it helps. And for Porro, for example, with Spain, I don't know what's best because he's playing so many games. He seems to be able to do it. He has, 2 weeks, no games, boom. I mean, some players might be okay, but I'm just thinking in terms of how things break in particular. And I just, from doing even stuff like PGCSE, we were taught that, if you do intense exercise, you train for something, etc., and then have 2 weeks and then doing nothing, go straight back into it, you've got a risk of injury. So I can only imagine it's something similar for footballers. But no, I thought I'd mention that. But let's move into the FA Cup then, because when I say 3 fronts, of course I'd love to be saying 4 fronts. We are at the League Cup after losing to Newcastle. But for the FA Cup, I mean, can we get further than we did, firstly, in the League Cup, and how far?
Well, I think, keeping with this wave of optimism, we're going to win it, aren't we? The FA Cup. Why not? It's hard. It's hard to predict where how far we're going to get in the FA Cup. I think because again, it's a bit luck of the draw up to a certain extent, and then obviously if you get to a final, well, anything can happen. But we haven't generally played well in most of the finals that we've got to, at least in the League Cup. I mean, we haven't got to FA Cup final, have we, since we won it, I think, right? And 91. So I'd like to think we can get to, I'm going to say we're going to get to the final. I've got a little feeling. The reality is Frank is making us harder to beat. I know we've we've lost a couple of games recently and haven't played well, but we've also had some really good performances. The fact is he's made us much harder to beat, and it's only going to get better. That's the thing with Thomas Frank, and that's the thing where we are at the moment. It can only get better. It's not going to get worse. It's not like last season where, in the league and everything else, or, even after, let's say, Ange's first 10 games or whatever, or first 20 games, it was a gradual, for whatever reasons, there's obviously lots of different reasons and mitigating factors, but the reality is it was going worse. Where we are at the moment, in terms of the overall project and the team, we can only get better. And that also depends, as Trav said as well, are we going to go big in January? Because he's making us harder to beat in something like the FA Cup, I think we can go and we can play any of those teams, that we might come across, and we've got a good chance. And I guess we have to say, well, probably we want to get drawn away every game, actually, right? Most teams would probably say we want a home draw, but at the moment, obviously, it's not really working for us. So why not? Final. We're going to get to the final and then see what happens.
Get to the final. I would love to win it. I mean, back-to-back years with trophies.
I'm just going to say, I want to go to Wembley as well. I want to go to Wembley with Spurs again, in a final.
Yeah,
it's been a long time. Been a long time since I did that. I was there for the League Cup win in '99 at the old Wembley, which is obviously amazing. But I'd love to just be able to go to Wembley to the new Wembley with Spurs. Spend that whole day, singing and the energy and getting up for it. That would be amazing. So yeah, final. We're gonna do it.
Love that, Philip. Thank you very much. Great way to start. Justin, FA Cup. Go on. How far are we gonna get?
Yeah, obviously it's the whole luck of the draw, but yeah, why not? Why not? The players have already won something the season before. They know realistically the League Cup's gone. Champions League is, don't get me wrong, Poch got us to a final, but yeah, that's a whole different thing. So yeah, why not? Let's follow the trend, man. We're gonna go win that. Doesn't matter who we're gonna play. We're gonna get the luck of the draw and be away games every way. And yeah, we're just gonna trump every team. Arsenal will be the first one.
Love this, guys. Come on, Ben. What are you saying?
Same. I think it's gonna. We can definitely get, if we take it seriously, get through to the final, and I don't see the reason we can't win it. We've definitely got the acumen to do it, and I think Frank would take it seriously enough to go all out to win it, and I can very easily see it being a North London derby final as well, if the draw allows it to happen. So
nice.
That's a little taster for you.
A little taster indeed. I love that. Thank you, Ben. And Travis, FA Cup.
Yeah, I think that's quite a bold statement from Ben, but I'll take it, to be fair. If we get that in an FA Cup final, he had to mention the ED, didn't he? He had to do it.
For people listening via audio, the Ginger Pele just said Eric Dyer to score the winner at Wembley, and Travis's favourite player is totally Eric Dyer.
Oh, Geezer's going to haunt me, honestly. Yeah, he's going to come back for a loan spell. Yeah, hopefully not. Yeah, I think we could go all the way. Tottenham are a cup team. So yeah, but if we get that in an FA Cup final, I think I'd have to be in a room on my own. I think for safety measures. Yeah,
safety measures.
It's not very good when Mikel Arteta comes on my telly. That's for sure. Yeah. I'd love us to go all the way. I really would, and I think Frank would love to bring a trophy to Spurs, and I think as Phil said earlier, he's making us harder and harder to beat, and we are going to get better with that. And there has been a lot of improvement in regards to that since Frank's come in. So we're going to go all the way. We're going to go to Wembley. We're going to smash Woolwich, and we're going to win the cup. Get up there.
Love that. I think, I don't want to let you down now. I was going to go a little bit reserved with the FA Cup, but I love these kind of predictions. I'm going to increase it a little bit. It's not going to be as good as yours. I say we get to the semi-final, but I'm happy in my, what do I say, 6th place in the league and quarter-final of the Champions League. I consider that optimistic enough. I think FA Cup, we might just about fall short trying to juggle 3 things at once. Juggling 3 balls, I say, I think you're going to drop at least 1. But that wraps up nicely for this episode of the Scarfey Spurs Talk Podcast. During the international break, reminder the content will continue. I mean, you'll know by seeing this, but there'll be still Tottenham content, England content, and of course, Premier League content. So to be honest with you, I worked it out. It's not much less, if at all, with it being during the international break, the videos that are scheduled to come out. So do keep your eyes peeled. I want to thank my wonderful panel for coming on today. Let's go through one by one and see where you can find them across social media if you wish to follow them, which I would recommend. Firstly, Philip, thanks for coming on. Where can people find you?
Yeah, been a pleasure to come on. Been a great chat. Thanks for having me. I'm mainly on X, I guess nowadays, at Frankfurt Spurs. Tweet mainly about Tottenham and also about the Bundesliga and Eintracht Frankfurt, which is my German team here in Germany. Actually, I'm currently working on a list of talent in the Bundesliga that I think that we should be looking at in January and in the summer. And I'm hoping to be able to present that on your channel, Harry, as well in the coming weeks.
Definitely.
So I think there's some really interesting talent over in Germany. I think we're missing a bit of despite having such a good scouting network now, theoretically, and obviously Fabio coming back and his team. I think there's something missing here. There's a lot of talent. So I'll be talking a bit about that as well. But yeah, check me out if you want to see more about the Bundesliga as well.
Great stuff. Thank you very, very much as always, Philip. Justin, welcome back on. A few issues with your mic. We got through it. Where can people find you?
Thanks for having me on there again. You can find me on X, the Wright Show. You can find me on TikTok as well. And at Tottenham games, I'm normally there most home games pitch. I'm normally block 105, so just give me a shout.
Good stuff. Thank you very much. Thank you for your commitment as well to the club. Ben, pleasure to have you on for your debut. I hope you enjoyed that. Where can people follow you?
Thanks, Harry. It's been a lot of fun. You can find me anywhere, Ben Baldwin on X, on YouTube. I always try to post, my experiences up at Spurs on match days, and just review, how the club's going in general. I'm up and about there quite often, so if you're bumping into me, say hello. Fingers crossed for a good rest of the season.
Exactly. Fingers crossed, but you're welcome back anytime, Ben. Thank you very much. Travis, thank you very much as well for coming on. Where can people find you? Always a pleasure.
Yeah, absolute pleasure to be back on again tonight, Harry. Obviously, it's been a while. I absolutely love these shows. I really, really do. And obviously, great to have a great platform of people on tonight as well. Absolute pleasure as always, gentlemen. I just want to say, Harry, keep smashing college, mate. You're an absolute asset to yourself and everyone around you. You really, really are. I love seeing your things about college on X and everything you do. It's really refreshing to see. So, keep doing what you do. You can find me at officialcaster on X. I am also on LinkedIn, where I do a lot of charity work and work for men's mental health. So hit me up on there if you are on the LinkedIn profile.
Great stuff, Travis. Thank you firstly for your kind words about me, and secondly for coming on, and thirdly, great work that you do as well. So please do check that out. Travis does a lot as well, and I just know you do so much stuff. I mean, you're qualified, aren't you, for that stuff in the workplace? Is that right?
Yes, yeah, I passed my mental health first aid training course back in June. It was a 2-day course with mental health first aid at England. That I've been wanting to do for a long, long time. So now I am now qualified, and I can bring it into the workplace and obviously outside of work as well. Really happy to have that, and talking about mental health a lot more aware, and just helping people to find a better place.
Lovely stuff. And lastly, Travis, we're going to get Harrison on, aren't we? Very, very soon. Tell people, how old he is, because we are going to get him on the channel.
Yeah, so Harrison is my stepson. He's 10 years old. He's an absolute Tottenham fanatic. When we first met, he was a West Ham fan. That changed extremely quickly. That all went into the bin shed, and it's now long gone. So now he's got Tottenham duvets, he's got Tottenham Lego, he's got Tottenham everything. So yeah, I think I've done quite. He's even got Tottenham darts as well. He's a massive dart fan as well. So yeah, he's got his Spurs darts that he absolutely loves. He's absolutely gagging to get on to obviously meet you guys, and just talking everything Spurs. He's very passionate about football. He plays a lot of football, and he's a good little footballer as well. So yeah, looking forward to getting him on. So yeah, thank you for that, Harry. Really appreciate it.
No worries. He's popped on, hasn't he, a couple of times. We've had one where he dropped us a wave, and the other time where he answered a couple of questions, but good to have him on for close to the full thing. I mean, at his age, that's pretty impressive. I mean, I thought I'd done okay starting at 13, just okay. But I mean, that's absolutely nothing compared to starting at 10. I mean, he could be taking over from me. I told him that the other day. I mean it. You can take over from me. He's do a better job than me. He might mix it up a little bit, and he'll get bored of the same person, I'm sure, after a while. But Travis, thank you. Thank you, everyone that's come on today. If you're listening on YouTube, because you have the option, of course, of listening live if you were there on time. Get involved still. Like and subscribe. For listening on audio, please do drop a follow and a 5-star review. Really appreciate it. I just want to say the Football Content Awards 2025 is in Leeds, and the ceremony is next Thursday. So at the time of recording, 7 days. So again, just a reminder to use that as an opportunity to say thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to that. And it's just an honor to share the stage 3 years in a row with so many fantastic people. Before you start YouTube, when you first start your journey, you see these people, that will be there that you used to watch when you were younger, used to take inspiration with, and now you have the honor to A, share the stage with them, and B, to collaborate with some of them as well. I just can't put into words how big that and how special that feels. It's just really special. A good one is Adam Pearson, for example, Newcastle YouTuber. I used to watch him from the start, because he still is and was Newcastle United's biggest YouTuber. So to have him on the channel about 2 or 3 weeks ago is huge. So that's just a big thank you, and testament to the amazing support, testament to the amazing guests that I have on. But on that note, please end the international break if anyone is listening and can do anything about it. I'm not sure anyone can, so there's no point in me saying it. But nonetheless, come on, you